Is this the transfer window where Newcastle finally solved their defensive puzzle? Or are we about to witness another missed opportunity that could haunt us for seasons to come? After securing Champions League qualification for next season, despite a dramatic final day loss to Everton, the Magpies are once again making headlines in the transfer market. We might be witnessing the dawn of a new black and white defensive dynasty. But there's a catch that's got everyone talking. A French-cast international defender who's been cast aside by the Blues, rejected by Villa, and now finds himself at the centre of a Tyneside transfer saga. The question is he the missing piece to Eddie Howe's defensive jigsaw? Or just another expensive gamble? Let's dive into what's really going on behind the scenes at St. James's Park with this Axel Disasi situation. What's up, Toon Army? Welcome back to NUFC Quick News, your go-to source for everything Newcastle United. The passion, the pride, and the black and white fight. Now, before we dive deep into this transfer saga that's got everyone buzzing, I need to ask you something. Are you ready for another defensive rollercoaster this summer? Because what I'm about to reveal might just change how you feel about our transfer strategy entirely. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you stick around until the end, because I've got a revelation about Eddie Howe's real defensive target that might surprise you. Right, let's get straight into it. Newcastle United are reportedly interested in Chelsea's Axel Disasi, but here's where it gets interesting. We're apparently balking at Chelsea's $30 million asking price. Now, before you start shouting, just pay the money at your screen. Let me break down why this situation is far more complex than it appears. First off, let's talk about who Disasi actually is. This is a 27-year-old French international who made his move from Monaco to Chelsea for $39 million just 2 years ago. Under Mauricio Pochettino, he was a regular starter, but when Enzo Maresca took over, everything changed. The defender found himself frozen out and shipped off to Aston Villa on loan in January. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Villa paid over $5 million for his services, gave him 10 appearances, and then said, "Thanks, but no thanks," to a permanent deal. That should tell you everything you need about his recent form, shouldn't it? But why are Newcastle even looking at him? Well, it's no secret that our defensive situation needs addressing. Dan Burn and Fabian Schär are both 33 and entering the twilight of their careers. Sven Botman has been struggling with injuries, leaving us desperately thin at the back. We all know we wanted Crystal Palace's Mark Guehi, but with Liverpool circling, that ship might have sailed. Here's what's really fascinating about this whole situation. Chelsea are absolutely desperate to offload players this summer. They've already moved Kepa Arrizabalaga to Arsenal. George Petrovic is heading to Bournemouth for $25 million. And Noni Madueke is reportedly Arsenal-bound for $52 million. Disasi is clearly another name on their must-sell list. Now let me ask you this. Does a player who couldn't convince at Villa really fit Eddie Howe's system? Because according to reports, Disasi struggles to read the game consistently and gets exposed when dragged into wide areas. In Howe's intense defensive setup, that could be a massive problem. Remember, we're not just talking about any old defender here. We need someone who can handle the pace and intensity of the Premier League. Someone who can grow into our system and provide long-term value. At $30 million for a player who's been rejected by Villa, are we really getting that? But here's the twist that nobody's talking about. Disasi's preference is apparently to stay in the Premier League, which gives us an advantage over Villarreal, who are also interested. The question is, do we really want that advantage? Let's be honest for a moment. Chelsea icon John Obi Mikel recently said that Chelsea need another top centre-back, alongside Levi Colwill. specifically mentioning that players like Tosin Adarabioyo and Benoit Badiashile aren't Chelsea standard. If Disasi was good enough, would Chelsea be so eager to sell him? The more I think about this, the more it feels like we're being used as a convenient solution to Chelsea's financial problems. They paid $39 million for him. He's got 4 years left on his contract, and they're trying to recoup some of that investment. Meanwhile, we're the club willing to take a punt on their cast-offs. What really concerns me is that this feels like settling for a fallback option rather than pursuing our actual targets. We wanted Guehi, we've been linked with Giorgio Scalvini, and now we're looking at a defender who couldn't cut it at Villa. That's not exactly the trajectory you want to see in your transfer business, is it? Don't get me wrong, Disasi has some positive attributes. He's physically imposing, he's got international experience, and he can play both centre-back and right-back. But his lack of agility and poor anticipation could prove to be a liability against the fast-paced attackers in the Premier League. And here's something that should worry every Newcastle fan. We're talking about a defender who was left out of Chelsea's Club World Cup squad. If he's not good enough for Chelsea's extended squad, what does that say about his current level? The financial aspect is equally concerning. At $30 million, we're talking about a significant investment in a player who's essentially been rejected by his last 2 clubs. That's not exactly the kind of transfer that screams value for money or long-term planning. What I find most interesting is how this whole situation reflects our current transfer strategy. We're clearly trying to be more prudent with our spending, which is admirable. But are we being too cautious? Sometimes you have to take calculated risks to progress. But this feels like the wrong kind of risk. If we're going to spend $30 million on a defender, shouldn't we be looking at younger players with higher potential? Shouldn't we be targeting defenders who fit our system perfectly, rather than hoping they'll adapt? Here's what I think is really happening. Eddie Howe knows he needs defensive reinforcements. The club is trying to be financially responsible, and Chelsea are offering us a seemingly convenient solution. But convenience doesn't always equal quality, does it? The fact that we're balking at the price suggests that even our own recruitment team has doubts about the value proposition. If we were completely convinced by Disasi's ability, wouldn't we just pay the money and move on? So where does this leave us? Well, according to reports, we might be better served looking elsewhere for more adaptable defenders who can grow into our system. That sounds like the sensible approach to me. The question for Eddie Howe and the recruitment team is whether they're willing to walk away from what appears to be a suboptimal deal and focus on better targets. Because at the end of the day, it's not about signing any defender. It's about signing the right defender. Look, Toon Army, this Disasi situation perfectly encapsulates the challenges we face in the transfer market. We need defensive reinforcements, but we also need to be smart about our investments. Sometimes the best deal is the one you don't make. What do you think? Should we meet Chelsea's asking price? Or are we right to look elsewhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Smash that like button if you're backing Eddie Howe to make the right decision. And hit subscribe to never miss a Toon update. We've got some massive transfer stories coming up that you won't want to miss. Until next time, stay proud, stay loud, and always keep the faith. Away the lads!